All right, prepare yourself for some culinary adventure. I just recently did a podcast with TJ Robinson, who you might know as the olive oil hunter, but he just launched this new artisanal vinegar company, and these vinegars are off the charts good. During our podcast, we basically went full on kind of like food porn-esque in terms of the ingredients and the methods and the ways you can use vinegar. So I decided, what the heck? So after recording the podcast, I got out the vinegars and I'm doing two of the recipes that we actually talk about in the podcast. The podcast, by the way, is going to be at bengreenfieldlife.com/vinegar podcast. And if you want to check out these vinegars, go to greenfieldpantry.com. All right, so anyways, let me show you what I got going. Okay, so in here is big old U.S. Wellness Meats bone-in pork chop. It's been in this stasher bag. Don't worry, it's a pretty heat-resistant plastic. 145 degrees for about the past 2.5 hours. And that's with shisho leaf and Dijon, a little bit of salt, a little bit of black pepper, technically grains of paradise pepper, which is like the pepper that burns fat. And then I've got this fantastic pear balsamic vinegar. We talk about this one in the podcast. It's an Austrian vinegar that has this amazing, pear flavor. 5% acidity, perfect for this sous vide recipe. So this is in there, and I'll be using the juices after I sear the pork chop to make a deglaze, which you'll see shortly. I've also got, besides my carrot fries in the oven right there, that's got no vinegar on it. That's just carrot fries. That's in my Boundless cookbook. But what I've got over here is a different vinegar. This is a calamansi. This thing is absolutely amazing. Calamansi is some kind of like a Filipino fruit. They make a pulp and brandy vinegar from it. And TJ discussed shrub cocktails and how to make a cocktail. So I took some more of my Japanese shisho leaf. And what I did was I let this sit all day with a little bit of rum, a little bit of sparkling water, a touch of salt, and then about 2 ounces of this vinegar. And so this is going to get strained and poured over ice as like a cocktail to go with the carrots and the pork chop. The cool thing is it's got a lot of kind of like bitters in it and components that will lower the glycemic index and allow for a little bit better digestion of the meal. So here we go. Okay, so what I got right now is the pork chop is out of the sous vide bag. The juices are still in there. So that's a lot of the vinegar and the mustard sauce. A little bit of olive oil in there too. And then I've got these onions cooking down and caramelizing, a little bit of butter, and I'll be adding that to the pan as part of the deglaze that I'll make from all the brown bits of the pork chop. And again, TJ and I go over the whole strategy behind this and how to use the vinegar for it in the podcast. You can see that as this pork chop's cooking, I'm just using a little bit of a base from the vinegar that's in here, and the rest is going to be used to reduce down to deglaze after I give this pork chop about 4 minutes per side. Again, like I could eat it right out of the bag, but we're going to get that nice sear with the brown bits and the deglazing sauce. Okay, so the pork chop continues to sear. I've now got all the contents of the stasher bag poured over the onions and the butter. So we got some shisho leaf. You can see this is cooking down real nice. And again, this will go into the pan with all these brown bits of the pork once that finishes. Now one key as I work on this pork chop, see this nice fatty pad on the side. If you really have a thick pork chop like this to work with, you want to use your tongs and just basically get a nice sear on that fat also. Okay, my pork chop is plated, and over here now I've transferred all my onions and shisho leaf and vinegar and butter into the pan where all the little bits of the pork from having cooked are settling in. So this is called deglazing. You can do this with broth, wine, different periods of time, etc. But this one's going to make a nice, thick, super nice sauce. It's going to have a lot of this pear balsamic vinegar flavor to it. It's going to go great with the shrub cocktail waiting over there, which I'll show you shortly. Okay, so for my shrub cocktail, I've got my copper style mug, which I thought would be a good one for this. I've got my mason glass jar where the vinegar and the rum, along with a little bit of soda water, a little bit of salt, has been going for a little bit here for about 6 hours. And then I'm going to top that off with sparkling water after I get it in here. So here we go. Oh my gosh, it's really good. And this glaze, oh my goodness. It's glaze amazing. And there's the final result. That's dinner, baby. Got that glaze nicely plated over the pork chop, some carrot fries. Oh my goodness, my mouth is watering. Wash that down with some shrub cocktail. That's a good dinner.